On May 28th, Tiffany Henyard may pull off her biggest crime yet. This is extremely time sensitive, so it's extremely important for me to talk about this before the 28th. This is something that most people are not talking about, but I think it's extremely important to continue to follow the story, to continue to stay focused on Supermayor and her administration. And this is something that was submitted by a man by Paul Roberts, someone who has been visible and vocal about the issues in the township. He's been at the meetings. If you notice when he is speaking and others who speak, you have Kamal Woods, the boyfriend of the Supermayor, giving him a death stare, trying to talk to him, trying to intimidate him. So it's extremely important that we shed the light on the things that Henyard is constantly trying to make as much money as possible while spending the taxpayer money on complete nonsense. So let's check out this article real quick. Local Voices, Thornton Township proposed budget could be Tiffany Henyard's biggest crime yet, submitted by Paul Roberts. I believe that each township is required to allow the public to ask questions about the budget, and the residents have the ability to amend the budget before it is put up to vote by the trustees. If you look at page 15 of the professional looking proposed budget below, you will see that the 5-month-long process of involving the public in the budget, I don't believe any of this happened. I remember the meeting that they had where they took 4 minutes, lied to people that showed up at the meeting, put them in the basement somewhere, did the meeting, and then left.
Yeah, politicians don't always like to hear from the public, let's be honest, but under the law, you do have a right to speak at part of any public meeting, which is why what happened last night in Thornton Township has some residents there outraged.
When I arrived, there was security here. He was standing at the bottom of the stairs, preventing anybody from going up to the boardroom. I asked him if the meeting was downstairs. He replied yes.
The controversial supervisor Tiffany Henyard during the public comment section of that board meeting, which is required by law. But they never got that chance. They say they were blocked from going to the boardroom and sent to the basement instead, where they were told the meeting would be held. It wasn't. Before they knew what had happened, the meeting upstairs in the boardroom was over in a matter of 4 minutes, and Henyard was gone. They say they were hoodwinked and their right to speak violated because Henyard didn't want to hear what they had to say.
We thought that they were purposely keeping the public away so that if they did invite us up, time for public comment had already passed.
They are violating our rights. I pay taxes here. I have a right to get up and speak whether this administration likes it or not.
So even me that's not there, it's hard to believe that actually happened. I do read that the budget mentions that Thornton Township is committed to realizing Supervisor Henyard's vision and goes on to propose increases of 37% over the last year and an increase of 49.87% in the general fund, while forecasting lower tax revenue and proposing further cuts to the assessor's office. And this is just for a point of reference to see how much money Tiffany Henyard already makes. So 2 years ago, $226,000, and last year she made $307,000 in the Thornton Township as a supervisor. Now, mind you, this does not count her salary for Dalton. She's seeking a 37% increase in her salary. Do the math, guys. How much money she's trying to make as the supervisor for the township. Earlier this week, I tried calling the clerk's office. On my third attempt, someone picked up the phone. I asked only for the time and location of the public forum to discuss the 2025 township budget. The woman answering put me on hold while she asked her co-worker, and instead of answering my question, transferred me directly to the financial director, Robert Hunt. I'm sure you guys already know who Robert Hunt is. He was cordial and acted helpful. The meeting is scheduled concurrently with my regular scheduled board meeting on May 28th, 6 p.m. at headquarters. When I asked him if it would be in a large room downstairs or in a small room upstairs, he replied that depends on the public turnout. I told him that I expect a low turnout since nothing has been posted on the township's website, in our mailboxes, or in the Lansing Journal. He told me a couple of times he posted a notice of the meeting in 3 newspapers as required by law. So I guess that's No Northwest Indiana Times, Daily Southtown, and The Shopper, but could not tell me why he did not use the Lansing Journal or the clerk's office. Oh, I have some theories. The Lansing Journal has been fair but critical of Henyard and administration, and many of the residents of the township check out the Lansing Journal, so why would they put it there? When I told him I appreciate his efforts to increase transparency in administration, he agreed with me, but said that every trustee will be able to ask all the questions that they have about the budget to him or the supervisor. He did not guarantee the residents' right to do the same. That's a problem, because someone can point to a specific Illinois law concerning the public's rights to question a township budget. Yes, I know budgets are considered boring by most people. Tiffany Henyard gets increased spending money if no one knows about the proposed budget, passed by her 3 rubber stamp trustees doing business as usual in a small room. Public dissent is anathema to her vision, as we saw in the last Nashville Township meeting, where no one could view the budget they were asked to vote on. I'm submitting this because the Lansing Journal sticks to factual local reporting, even when you can get attention by focusing on sensational cars, houses, furniture, and sex lives of Henyard's supporters, as so many media outlets do. However, I see this proposed budget as an impeding crime bigger than much of what gets reported about Thornton Township these days. I trust that the Lansing Journal and the reporters will handle this appropriately. Paul Roberts. And if you go, and I'll put the link to this in the description below, you guys can check out the budget, right? If you are a resident of the township, you should take the time this weekend to read this budget and then show up to the meeting that's on Tuesday the 28th at 6 p.m. I appreciate Paul Roberts' dedication and the fact that he's being honest. This is a very sensationalized story. It has a lot of layers to it, and it's important to kind of focus on what is actually affecting the people who live in the township. That is the most important thing. And everyone has a different role to play. Whether you're in print media or YouTube or local news, everyone has a role to play. But if I was a resident of the township, I would focus on the things that is affecting the day-to-day lives of myself and my family and my community, my neighbors around me. That's the most important thing. When it really comes down to it, especially breaking down budgets, diving deep into the things that are actually going to affect the people there. Removing emotion is extremely important because Henyard and her administration are full of emotion. The whole situation is full of emotion. So I do appreciate Paul Roberts' honesty. Tiffany Henyard and her friends are trying to take as much money out of the township as possible. And the people who live there need to ask these questions. Do you think the supermayor, after everything she has done, deserves a 37% increase? If you do, then it's all good. But if you don't, you may need to say something about it. Do you think having more cuts to assessor office? Do you think that she is not being transparent? Do you think that she's trying to find ways to sneak in the back door to try to make as much money as possible? Then you need to be more active in this situation. And it's interesting that they had this news story come out right before what's going to happen on Tuesday about how she's the greatest mayor around.
Tonight's meeting had a much different tone than what we've experienced previously at Dalton City Council meetings. Now, the room was full of Henyard supporters, and they wanted me to be sure to tell you that they applauded for her several times as she talked about the township being in a great place financially. The majority of the meeting focused on property taxes and finances. Henyard showed residents how their property taxes have increased each year, despite what their local mayors may have suggested. Henyard's team says years ago they were in a deficit of more than $2 million, and now today, under her administration, her team says there's a surplus of more than $6 million.
Very appreciative to receive the information today. We have the best mayor ever.
I was very appreciative of the transparency of the supervisor, Tiffany Henyard.
Were there any questions that you have at all?
No, right now I'm going to give her a chance.
Propaganda at its finest. Everyone has a narrative. Henyard has hers. We all have ours. We all have a narrative. It's the people who are watching and the people, especially the people who live there, figure out what makes the most sense to you. And then you'll find that, yeah, there's some things that don't make sense. I think it's extremely important to question everything. I tell my son all the time, always ask questions. If something doesn't make any sense, ask more questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. This is your tax dollars at play. You want to make sure that the people who are running things know what they're doing and they're doing it out of the best interests of the township, not themselves. I'll put the link of the article down below. What do you guys think about the budget? If you could do a deep dive, let me know what you find. Thank you for taking the time to watch this, and I'll see you guys in the next video.